Hello everyone? Or, well, just you.
This is such a cool
Yeah, it
party,
really is.
isn't it?
Listen, it looks like I've successfully trapped you in this corner of the room, and you know what that means.
No,
I get to force you to listen to the entire story of this cool little game I played recently.
but I never played that game.
Oh, so you've never played Pocket Mirror even though it's free on itch.io and has a remaster on Steam?
Nope.
Well, haven't you made some poor life decisions, because I'm going to be spoiling the entire game. The story of Pocket Mirror begins in 19th century Austria with a woman named Elise. In her diary she writes that her youth was spent in hard labor and cold, sleepless nights. Not wanting to remain poor her entire life, Elise makes a deal with a strange demon from the woods who promises her enormous wealth along with anything else she could want. The cost of this deal is not her soul, but instead the one of her second-born. Elise accepts the deal and gets everything she asked for, along with the realization that she just sacrificed her future kid for money.
That sounds like such a simple story.
Except, you don't play as Elise in Pocket Mirror. You play as her daughter, the one whose soul was sold prematurely to the demon in the woods. The entire game is spent reconciling with this fact. Already this is a highly specific yet dark setup for a story, but that's exactly what makes Pocket Mirror so interesting to me. We get to see how someone lives knowing they got robbed of the life they were supposed to have, and that's the part of the story I want to focus on. The game opens with the main character having severe amnesia, only remembering a few words. Hold your memories close to your heart, you shouldn't ever let it go. These are the words Elise gives her daughter when she hands her the titular pocket mirror. Due to some loophole in the contract, as long as Goldia remembers who she is and thus holds onto the pocket mirror, the demon is unable to take her soul. To counter this loophole, he gave her extreme memory loss and then put her into a coma, which is where you start at the beginning of the game. But before any of that happened, Goldia's mind came with a curse that splits her personality into 3 radically different people, each one frequently taking control of her at random intervals. There's 3 photos you find towards the end of the game that give us a peek into how this affects her. The first picture shows Goldia throwing a tantrum because of something her twin brother said. We don't know exactly what he said, but it's probably something trivial. Sometime later during the same event, Goldia delivers a professional speech to the adult crowd, almost like she wasn't crying over something trivial a few moments before. Then in the final image, Goldia retreats to her room and starts inexplicably ripping up her homework, as if she didn't just hold a well-composed speech. In her father's words, "I couldn't recognize my own daughter." Who are these personalities and how do they deal with the curse? The first character you meet takes advantage of her family's immense wealth. If Goldia is going to die early on anyway, then she might as well use all that money to live the greatest childhood possible. There's no better way to show this than to describe word for word how you enter this area. After encountering a door that is too small to enter, Goldia drinks a magical blue potion off the floor that shrinks her to doll size. This lets her enter the room, which is mysteriously empty, aside from the chandelier in the center. After noticing that the chandelier is actually upside down, like a Looney Tunes character, Goldia realizes that she's standing on the ceiling and only then falls down to the ballroom filled with dancing stuffed animals. This is the definition of a fantasy world, and of course every fantasy world has to have its conflicts. So you want to know what kind of childlike problems the characters here face? All of these people are completely uneducated. Can you believe most of them don't know how to read? Pathetic. I feel so misunderstood. I'm sure I was born in the wrong century. The main personality of this area is called Fleda, and Fleda is by far the most annoying character in this entire game. She is characterized by doing nothing all day, eating mountains of sweets and playing with her doll Egliette. This is different to what her twin brother does with his time. In a short video made by the developers, we see the two twins sitting next to each other at a table, partaking in vastly different activities. Goldia is drawing various characters from her fantasy world, while Henry is put under high expectations and forced to study. Despite being of the same age, born to the same rich family, only one of these kids is spoiled. I theorize Goldia was treated differently because Elise felt bad for her. She literally sold her daughter's soul for money. The least she could do is give her the easiest life possible before the demon reappears to take her away for good. She's essentially babying her, and this decision turns her daughter into an insufferable, intolerant brat who doesn't care about anyone other than herself. She is so annoying to listen to that I started liking the passive main character for the sole reason that she wasn't Fleda. This is how Goldia interacts with the pumpkin NPCs.
My dream is to become a famous pianist. Do you think I could do it?
The character speaking is a pumpkin with no limbs. Yes, definitely. In the next room over you find this pumpkin and a slot machine. The pumpkin has a coin he wants to insert into the machine, but can't because, well, take a guess. After inserting the coin for him, it leads to this interaction. Oh, something came out.
Ooh, what is it? What is it?
A ribbon. It's really cute. You don't like it?
I do, but I'm a boy. I can't use my ribbon.
I'm sorry, miss. It seems I can't claim my prize. Yes, you can. You want to know how Fleda acts towards the pumpkins? Like this.
Princess, who's this girl next to you?
She's my friend.
Can I be friends with her too? I've never had any friends.
There's no way I'm going to share my new friend with the likes of you.
Princess, I have a big favor to ask of you. You see, Princess, my tooth fell out this morning, and I really want to get a tooth from the tooth fairy. So would you please put my tooth under my leaves?
Oh no, Pumpkin, there is no way I'm going to touch your tooth.
Fleda, it's just a tooth, and besides, Mr. Pumpkin even asked you nicely and everything.
Oh, is that so?
Why don't you do it then? Gladly. Later you play a card game with Fleda, and if you lose, this is her reaction. I wasn't expecting you to be so weak.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot I'm too good at everything. Of course it would be impossible for someone like you to beat me.
Do you want to play another match? Or are you too much of a coward to face me?
Well, I mean, surely I'm not gonna let the...
I'm not in the mood anymore. Let's do something else. You know, I reloaded the save file specifically to beat her again. And this is what she said. I won! Oh, why isn't that great for you? You weren't even that good. I was just distracted. I just let you win because I was feeling sorry for you. So, what color do you like best? I really like red. But I don't really like red. So just choose between pink and blue. Which do you like best? I like blue, but I like pink better, so we're going with what is the point of asking if you're not going to listen?
Fleda,
what do you want? I don't talk with losers.
But I thought we were friends.
And we are friends. I just don't like you very much. Giving Goldia all she could ever want has very obviously turned her into the worst person ever, but it's also made her so out of touch with reality that it becomes dangerous. In the maze before you reach Fleda's literal gingerbread house, there is this one path she refuses to go down. If you return here after Fleda ditches Goldia, you find this Easter egg. The Pumpkin King is shorthand for the demon. Interacting with this tree tells us that Fleda once challenged the Pumpkin King to a chess game. She lost that chess game. If we are to assume the stuffed animals are manifestations of Fleda's thoughts, then this stuffed rabbit who plays chess without knowing the rules means Fleda challenged the demon to a chess match without knowing how to play chess. As part of this deal, the demon gained access to Goldia's mind where he can summon his minions taking the form of pumpkins to cause as much chaos and confusion as possible. This includes creating some of the dangerous puzzles found inside the game, which you can tell are his due to the signature laugh that plays when you go near them. On top of that, she actively hallucinates new events to justify her imagined reality. Right before Elise dies of sickness, she writes a letter confessing all of her sins directed towards her children. This includes mention of the curse she brought upon Goldia. When Fleda reads this letter, she becomes furious, believing the letter to be a bunch of lies written by an imaginary mean girl she makes up to justify the existence of the letter. When faced with real-life problems, Fleda imagines villains into existence so she has someone to blame. Fleda's fantasy world used to escape the demon only brought her closer to him, and it also brought her family further away from her. But if Fleda is the girl throwing a tantrum over something her brother said, then this next personality is the one giving a speech. The second area of the game takes place in a quiet, decrepit manor, which I imagine is a more realistic version of Goldia's home, unlike the castle from before. It also takes place a few years after Elise's death, which is why the second personality looks much older. Instead of being rude, irritable, and generally annoying, Harpy is calm, patient, and gives off older sibling energy. I don't know if any of you grew up with brothers or sisters that were much older than you, but that's the exact vibe these two give off together. Goldia is lost and knows nothing about her situation, while Harpy is more confident and knowledgeable. Despite her calm demeanor, there's something very off about Harpy. It's not that she's secretly evil or anything, but you do get the impression that there are things she doesn't want to tell you. When drinking the tea she offers you, you quickly learn it's contaminated with something, which immediately made me think that Harpy poisoned the tea, but no, in reality, Harpy is just as surprised as the protagonist and even offers to compensate you for the foul drink. What is going on here? After Elise's death, the father, Roman, decided to take a different approach to raising his kids, a much more strict one. Goldia would now have a private tutor that would teach her things, give her homework, and become the subject of her rabid attacks. Not knowing why she did this, Roman would do some independent research into whatever was up with his daughter's head, although this investigation led nowhere. Regardless, you can feel the weight of added expectations in the manor. In one of the rooms you find 3 different drawings of 3 different characters on the floor. When translated from German they read smart girl, hardworking girl, and good girl. I wonder who this is a drawing of. Even the pumpkins in this area have higher expectations of you. Before they were more silly and whimsical, and while some of the manor pumpkins still act this way, others either treat you with contempt or start asking you random maths and history questions. Being treated more seriously made Harpy want to live up to everyone's expectations. She might be just some kid with a doomed curse, but that's not gonna stop her from rising above and beyond and becoming the greatest there ever was. She would live in spite of the curse, uncontrolled by it. Harpy would do all her homework. Harpy would protect Goldia from that sinister girl from before. Harpy would even bring justice to the murder victim, solve the case, and find the... Wait, what? What culprit? What victim? Okay, so this is where the pocket mirror lore gets kind of tricky. In both areas so far, there has been a weird murder plotline taking place at a party. However, you don't actually need to consider these set pieces in order to solve the story, which is why I haven't really seen anyone dig into them too much. However, I do think it's important, so I'm going to talk about it. Because Roman's favorite thing is keeping up appearances, he hosts a party with other rich people to give off the impression that his family is fine. Except this is no ordinary party, for this gathering is actually a ploy to kill someone. And all the guests are in on it. This is where it gets confusing. As far as I can tell, both the murderer and the victim are random unnamed people who are unimportant to the greater story of Pocket Mirror. Because of this, it's possible that there wasn't literally a murder that happened, and maybe it's supposed to represent something else, but I have no idea what that could be if that's the case. Regardless, Goldia draws something for her father trying to get his attention, except he doesn't approve of her scribbles and calls them a waste of time. He then reminds her not to disturb him that evening as he will be attending an important meeting. Failing to get her father's approval the first time, Goldia disobeys his orders and sneaks out of her room to reach the party. Roman can't confront her about this as that would ruin his perfect family facade. After witnessing the murder, Goldia sees it as the perfect opportunity to redeem herself in her father's eyes. If she could catch the killer, then surely her father would be greatly impressed, finally filling that good girl role he had expected of her. Now, why do I think all the guests are in on it? Because the answer of the next puzzle heavily implies that.
Everyone is let out of the room while the butlers clean up the body. In the meantime, you can go around listening into conversations the guests have in their private rooms. It quickly becomes apparent that no one here likes the victim, nor do they care about the fact that they just died. Have you looked at her shoes? They were hideous. No wonder she got targeted. It's such a shame the party was interrupted. Shame? I think she got what she deserved. I wonder if anyone will be put up to blame tonight. Of course not, don't be silly. We all agree that it was for the better. No one even liked the poor girl. I'm sure they're just taking their time to clean up that mess before we can go back to the grand hall. Harpy, being a kid, doesn't realize all the guests planned out the murder. She figures out who the killer is based on clues she finds while spying on people. It was the woman in the white dress. Upon accusing the woman in the white dress, Goldie realizes that there is in fact 2 women with white dresses. So how are you meant to figure out the murderer? Well, the killer is clearly from France, as seen by the usage of the French word for ugly. According to the guests, dyeing your hair red is also a trend in France, and the woman on the left just used a French word. I suspect the lady on the left. This is unacceptable. Me? An assassin? Don't be ridiculous. Is the girl right? Are you the murderer? No, I am innocent. I would be ashamed to have something like this happen at my own event. You are right, young lady. I apologize for my behavior. As for you... How dare you disobey me? What have I told you about leaving the room during the night? This is the last time you will ever disobey me. Now get in your room and do not dare come out until I tell you to. This is what breaks Harpy's character. She tries to do the right thing, she tries to be the person the adult world expects her to be, but instead gets locked in a dark room and told that no one will ever come for her again. In the play The Demon Shows You, there's this one part where Harpy looks at the pocket mirror, only instead of seeing a girl who is smart and hardworking, she just sees herself. You are not my daughter, she scorned. You are not my sister, he laughed. You are not my daughter, he mocked. Staring at the failure that is herself, Harpy metaphorically blinds herself, refusing to acknowledge her shortcomings or how the curse may affect them. In a way, using self-improvement to conjure up the same fantasy world Fleda lived in. This is what's off about Harpy. She tries to live the life of a normal person, withholding the fact that she's literally blind. Sometimes this works out, like when Harpy guides Goldia down the pitch-black corridor, not needing to see where to go because she already memorized the mansion layout. Or how almost every book in the library is written in Braille, still allowing her to read books. But other times, not mentioning her obvious impairment makes the situation a lot more complicated than it has to be. When Harpy poured Goldie the tea earlier, the kettle turned out to be infested with mold. Mold she had no idea was there because she couldn't see. Harpy's eyes are most likely marbles or some other round replacement for eyes, which is what leads to this interaction when the marbles are caught awkwardly staring at the main character. Is something the matter, Harpy? You've been looking at me for a while. Harpy's eyes are fake, so she has no idea they are pointed directly at Goldia, yet instead of explaining this, she makes up some weird lie to cover for something that should not need to be covered for. It's like she took a page out of her father's book, playing up appearances to make you think everything is okay, when the mansion is clearly in decay. The disorganized interior causes Harpy to blindly walk into random objects. There's random holes in the floor which she gets her foot stuck in. When the elevator breaks down and falls to the bottom floor, Harpy repeatedly punches the control panel, hoping this will somehow fix the elevator. She then chastises you for trying to leave the obviously broken elevator to find a different solution. Interestingly, at the end of the chapter, Harpy admits to failing Goldia, ultimately being unable to help her in any meaningful capacity. Goldia disagrees with this, and lists off all the things Harpy has helped her with. Harpy may not have fixed the curse or changed anything about her decaying family, but she did make Goldia stronger as a person, becoming noticeably more confident in the dialogue after this point. While Harpy may have lived in an avoidance-filled delusion, she still helped Goldia grow as a person far more than Fleda ever did. And with that, we move on to the final personality. While the previous two characters have had largely defensive strategies for dealing with the curse, this next one is nothing if not offensive. Lisette's section of the game is where most of the horror in Pocket Mirror comes from. Whereas the last two areas had a set location, this one takes place everywhere and nowhere at the same time. You walk through random dark hallways before suddenly appearing in a circus, before then entering a church attending your own funeral? There's so much senseless violence in this area that it permeates hatred. At one point you watch yourself get brutally strangled by giant hands, and then it just cuts to Goldia standing there watching it. There is only one conclusion you can draw from all this. Unlike the other two personalities who wanted to protect Goldia, Lisette wants revenge. Lisette isn't really defined by a set time period, but rather as someone who has always been present, yet was forced into the shadows by the other two. Remember the mean girl with the scissors blamed for writing the letter in Fleda's house? That is Lisette. If anything bad happens in Goldia's life, it is always Lisette's fault. If she suddenly rips up her homework for no reason, it is Lisette's fault. If she violently attacks her teacher, that wasn't really Goldia, it was Lisette. And now she is sick of being the scapegoat. The blatant unfairness of it all is a major theme of this area. If you want to look at Lisette's motivations, the reason she wants vengeance is because she was treated unfairly. With the Demon's stage show displaying Lisette getting executed 3 different times for crimes she didn't commit. But if you want to look at this theme for Pocket Mirror as a whole, Lisette is Goldia's repressed anger at the world who gave her this curse. The first words you hear upon entering this area are, "Why me? None of this has to do with me. None of this is our fault." It's not Goldia's fault her mother preemptively sold her soul. That's an event completely out of her control. She never did anything to deserve such a devastating curse. It's as if the universe itself is punishing her for crimes she didn't commit. If the world is a circus, then she is forced to play the clown. It would be weird if Lisette wasn't angry at her life situation. And yet, she still secretly blames herself for being cursed. In the mirror maze, you can find one of the Lisette clones repeating a mantra about how she's the one to blame for everything, following it up with "Mother did nothing wrong." It's Lisette's fault. Fleda did nothing wrong. Mother did nothing wrong. It's because Lisette. It's all because of Lisette. It's because Lisette is a despicable girl. Perhaps constantly being reminded she's the cause of everyone's misfortune caused her to believe it, because there is just as much guilt rampant in this area as there is hatred. In her introduction cutscene, we see multiple questionably alive Lisette clones tied to chairs with bags over their heads, literally torturing herself for existing. If you really want to, the entire area could be a representation of self-hatred, considering Lisette is Goldia, and by attacking her, she's essentially attacking herself. When you look at this chapter from that angle, Lisette's violent tendencies are not a form of revenge, but rather a genuine attempt to help Goldia. I must break that pocket mirror, I have to set Goldia free. To break the pocket mirror is the only way out. This is most obvious when Lisette charges at you with scissors. If you choose to block the attack with the pocket mirror, the mirror breaks and Lisette exclaims, "I'm free," before everything fades to black. But if you accept, perhaps the reason the other two personalities hated Lisette so much is because she was the only one willing to look at the truth. But when faced with that truth, her reaction was to give up. You're going to lose to him no matter how hard you try, so why bother? Why do you keep holding on to that ridiculous curse? Do you not understand what Elise did to you? In Lisette's good ending, Goldia acknowledges her mistakes and confesses to Lisette that she's been a coward hiding from the truth the whole time. However, Goldia does not give up the journey of self-discovery, continuing to search for answers, continuing to push forward even when she admits that it may be pointless in the end. This should be the end of the game. Goldia accepts her 3 different personalities before they shatter and move on. Or that would be if it wasn't for... The story of Pocket Mirror should technically end here. If you collect all 3 regalia, and therefore fully remember Goldia's name, that should obliterate the whole contract Elise had with the demon. Or that would be the case if he didn't have one more trick up his sleeve. Something that should not have happened, but did. A character whose identity is not only emblematic of Pocket Mirror's teams as a whole, but is also the most tragic one in the entire game. Angel is a character who has appeared multiple times throughout the game before this point. However, despite looking like the mirror image of Goldia, she has absolutely nothing to do with her. When Goldia forgot who she was due to amnesia, the demon looked at all her quirky personalities and decided to have a bit of fun. He would create a 4th personality of his own called Angel, and then gaslight Goldia into thinking that this random person is actually a hugely important part of herself that she just forgot about. She would even tell Goldia that her name is also Angel to further mess with her. After gaining her trust, Angel would then steal the pocket mirror, destroy it, and, well, you can guess what happens next. In that sense, the adventure is far from over as Goldia believes she has to unravel this mysterious 4th personality and obtain her regalia before discovering her own name. But then, what makes Angel such a tragic character and how does she reflect the game's message as a whole? When creating Angel, the demon made her using Goldia's likeness. Literally, he gives her a fake imitation pocket mirror just like the one Goldia has. This is the gift of life. He then proceeds to destroy it. There is only one way to regain what was once yours, and that is... Angel's goal is to take Goldia's pocket mirror so that she can become a real girl and experience what living is like. She wishes to be more than just a figment of the imagination, but what Angel doesn't realize is that the demon won't fulfill that desire even if she succeeds in getting the pocket mirror. Despite being a demon whose gimmick is making deals with hidden double meanings, there are no tricks in this deal, because it's a scam. I'm going to become a real girl, as if I'd ever let you. Angel is beneath consideration for him. She is literally a joke character. Why would he take the satirical version of Goldia he created seriously? Angel is created for one purpose, and one purpose only. She doesn't exist for anything else other than dumb entertainment. Despite not actually being the same person, Goldia and Angel do share one thing in common. Both characters are doomed to fate no matter what, due to cosmically unfair factors far outside their control. Only at least Goldia had experienced what it was like to live, even if it was through the lens of 3 different characters. Angel didn't. Fleda, Harpy and Lisette are all imaginary personalities floating inside Goldia's head, yet they are all more real than Angel will ever be. However, unlike everyone else in this story, Angel does not take it sitting down, and her entire chapter is about challenging fate itself to see if she can change the unchangeable. She is what should not be. When you meet Angel in the final area, what's supposed to happen is she betrays you, steals the pocket mirror, and then kills Goldia. But instead, entering the mirror causes Goldia to befriend her. Like they're just friends now. Whether it was because Angel knew the deal was a scam or because Goldia was just such a nice person, she doesn't steal the pocket mirror. Instead, somehow believing she can leave this dream together through the power of friendship. You can feel how inconceivable this action is through the map design. There's nothing in this room apart from the black void, because you weren't supposed to see much of it. The game was meant to end here, and yet it didn't. If you continue walking through this weird purposeless path, Angel will remark that this moon, which allows you to progress forward, wasn't there before, implying that this corridor was a dead end before you showed up. The demon was initially pissed off that Angel was now betraying him, as can be seen by the bitter pumpkins who bully her in this one room. However, he quickly realizes he can abuse this new friendship to cause even more chaos. The demon starts dropping some subtle hints about Angel's real motivations to both mess with them and remind Angel of who she really is. It starts off small but quickly escalates into a giant monstrous rendition of Angel dragging her ugly bloodied body across the floor trying to kill you. Her response to this is, "Don't be fooled by his tricks, he's just trying to confuse us." That's what this whole area is. You walk through liminal halls with dreamlike music playing in the background, all while two characters attempt to prolong the inevitable. Eventually, after Angel runs off without Goldia, you do find out the truth, shown to you by Guess Who, and that is what leads to the climactic confrontation at the end of the game. The endings are all determined by how many regalia you've collected, yet in every one, Angel will always say something about deserving the pocket mirror. At the end of an epic chase sequence, Goldia drops the pocket mirror, leading to a final race for it. If you reach it first, Angel will say, "Give me back what's mine." If Angel reaches the pocket mirror first, and you ask for it back, she retorts, "What did you ever do to deserve this toy of yours? I've earned it, unlike you." When Angel inevitably shatters due to the pocket mirror doing nothing, she yells, "How could you, demon, after all I've done?" Angel goes on a long tirade about how undeserving the other personalities were of life when Angel worked the hardest out of them all, complaining how unfair it was that they got to experience so much of life when they barely helped Goldia with her one. What did any of them ever do for you, Angel? In another ending where Angel kills Goldia for the pocket mirror, Henry appears, don't question it, and Angel says, "Who are you? I don't care who you are, I've earned my right." But did she really earn anything at all? Is the right to life just something you can earn? If you work harder than everyone else, can you really be more entitled to life than them? Angel believes that yes, she does deserve the pocket mirror and thus her life more than Goldia. But as we've seen throughout the game, reality doesn't work like that. The world doesn't care about whether something is fair, as is the case with Goldia. She was born doomed to have a worse, shorter life than everyone else, yet she didn't do anything to deserve it. If Goldia didn't earn her right to the curse, then can Angel really claim she earned the right to live? I think that's the real horror of Pocket Mirror, the idea that you are not truly entitled to anything. Everything you hold dear could be taken away in an instant, regardless of whether you earned or deserved it. No one is born deserving of their fortune, no one is born deserving of their curses. Ironically, navigating unfair circumstances is what living is like. I really love how Pocket Mirror ends. If you've made it to the Angel chase scene and collected all regalia, then you've already won. It's just a matter of choosing which good ending you like more. If you choose to let Angel take the Pocket Mirror, you get the bittersweet but more realistic ending. We see a much older Goldia wake up from the coma, fully remembering her identity and her name. Funnily enough, the rest of the Heilige family are either dead or missing, which means that Goldia, the one girl born cursed with the shortest life, was the one who ended up living the longest because she wasn't consumed by greed or selfish desire like the rest of her family members. She's still haunted by Mother's actions along with her past memories, but at least she is now free to move forward into a new dawn. There is, however, a much better ending, even if it is a little fantastical. If Goldia reaches the dropped pocket mirror first, Angel completely gives up, believing she's lost her chance to live a real life. But then something unexpected happens. I know you're not truly part of me, and I know what you want from me, but I still want to accept you. Angel is reality's cruel joke against Goldia. She is a representation of the deal and a symbol of the demon's effects on her life. A third party who should not belong in her life but interferes anyway. Yet by accepting the joke character and treating her seriously, Goldia realizes her full potential and utterly destroys the demon at his own game. Angel is not an intruder invading Goldia's life, she is Goldia's life. And now, in this ending, she wants to accept that Angel was always a part of Goldia and not a stranger created to mess with her. And thus, Goldia finds the final letter to her name. Now this is where the ending comes in. By accepting part of the demon as herself, through some magic stuff, Goldia breaks the timeline, rewrites history, and is now a little girl again living with Elise in the humble small home. Literally receiving the life she never got to live. Granted, this ending also implies that Goldia is going to make the same mistake her mother did, but shut up, don't you want a happy ending, just like accept it? You must be wondering why I'm talking about a game that came out 8 years ago. Because next time I'm talking about Pocket Mirror's prequel, and if you don't play it by then Reddit Maxwell.png, then I'm going to be very angry.